Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Compelling Conversations podcast. Today, I have with me a very talented musician, Abdul Rahman. Abdul Rahman, thank you so much for joining us. And you're here
Thanks for having
from
me.
Katy, Texas, yeah?
Yeah, I'm from like the Katy Cypress area.
Nice, nice, awesome. All right. There's something that I heard Robert Greene say, which was when a person steps into the unknown, other people become impressed and intimidated. Do you feel like because you've stepped into the unknown, it's had this effect with your music?
Um, I think many people are impressed with like the musical talents and like how I'm able to create certain things, especially whenever I pick up a guitar and I just started playing a chord progression and I start like singing the first thing that comes to my head. That usually impresses people. And this quote is very interesting because like there are times where even for myself, I will say something so deep that I didn't even like think about, but it just like when I sang it or freestyled it, it just came by itself. And that sometimes even intimidates myself that I didn't even know that I had such knowledge within myself whenever I sing it, just like as it is.
Wow. Do you feel like your music is something that is stepping into the unknown for you?
Definitely. I think it's reaching into a place that is unseen. So it is definitely in the unknown. So I think certain things that I sing or I freestyle about or I hum the melodies that create these lyrics most of the time. It's definitely something that is unseen and something that's hard to explain in a normal conversation. But when you hear it in a tune and in a melody, it makes a lot more sense.
Yeah. I have to say, you're actually really good at music. Like,
Thank you. I appreciate
yeah,
that.
because I've seen you in person. It's pretty impressive, you know? Yeah. Lord, are you familiar with the musician Lord?
Yeah.
I remember her talking a few times about how when she's creating music, she sees it in colors.
Wow.
Um, would you relate to that, or is it something else for you?
For me, sometimes I envision a story, so I'm kind of seeing different scenes of things. Most of the times it's like based on something true, but majority of the time it's like a fictional story that I'm creating in my mind. And I'm trying to tell a story through metaphors and like imagery and different things like that. And it's really the story is the story already exists, and I'm just finding a way to tell it through music and through like these rhymes and these rhythms.
I like that. The story already exists. That's fascinating. When you look at the patterns of the music that you create and the stories that they're trying to convey, do you even see a pattern in those? Or is it very different for each?
I think many songs are based on a specific moment in my life and they kind of resemble what I'm going through, the mindset, and also the people around me. Because I don't only sing about my personal experiences, but also I'll look at friends and family, what they're going through. And then sometimes I'll use their experiences with mine and things I've heard and different things. And like it all becomes one story, but based on many different influences. I think every song has like a different storyline. Sometimes it's like explaining something different, but the root is very similar in a lot of my songs. I think so.
Wow, that's fascinating. Yeah. Do you have a favorite one that you've like come up with? Is there one that you just look at and you're like, that one is very precious to me?
Um, I've written a lot of songs right now. I've only released two projects, but I've written many, many songs from the time I picked up the guitar to now. I love when music comes like in a burst where I'm just sitting and the song will just appear and I'm just like a vessel just playing it.
Wow.
That's a really surreal feeling. There are also other moments where I've written songs where I've written the song in different pieces. So I've written like one section of the song in a day, and then a few days later I'll write the chorus, and then another day I'll write something, and then I'll structure it together one day when I sit down. If I would have to pick one song, um, I really enjoy Emotions and Explosions. That song was very fun. But another song that holds like a place in my heart is Golden Sunset. That was
Mm.
from my first project. It's like the finale of a trilogy that I did. It's called Cold Summer Nights, and the last song is called Golden Sunset. And this is like the finale of the story that I'm writing, the fictional story that I wrote throughout this project. And I think it has a lot of my musical influences. Like it has like some electronic. It starts off with an acoustic beat. Acoustic, that's kind of my roots. That's where I started. My music was acoustic guitar. Then it goes into like this chill, like kind of electronic vibe, and then it goes into this rock, hard rock thing. So it's like, it's I really like it because it really shows my versatility, and the storyline is it's very I think it's very intense. The song becomes very intense towards the end.
Wow.
So like the
You
story that I
know,
have in my mind. So I think Golden Sunset is probably the song right now.
wow, Golden Sunset. Yeah, that's a beautiful answer. It inspires several questions in my mind. The first one, um, tell me if you can about the story. What exactly is the story? If you could convey it in a few words, or if you want to share the lyrics or whatever it is.
Okay. So actually, Cold Summer Nights, this is the first project I ever released, and it's really interesting because this is the first time where I had written a couple things before this, but this is the first time where I felt this creative rush go through my mind. And I was sitting in my room. I think I was about this is probably back in like 2019, and I'm just sitting in my room, and I had recalled something that I had experienced. And so I remember that my dad was working at a convenience store, and he had told me that there was a homeless person carrying a guitar all the time, and he's always like just shredding outside. And my dad was like, if you ever come to the store, you should talk to him. And I kind of pushed it off for a while. I'm like, I'm not really interested. But then one day I said, why not? So I ended up going, and I'm looking for this person, but I don't see him for a long time. So I ended up just walking around. And as I'm walking around, I just see a lot of homeless people, like it's off of I-10. I'm just seeing a lot of homeless people under the bridge. And I'm just like, this is the first time I'm being exposed to like homelessness. And I was pretty young at the time. So I'm just like, this felt really kind of scary, kind of made me grateful, but also just like kind of sad. Like looking at their reality was very tragic. After talking to many of them, I told them that, oh, my dad is at the convenience store, and they were just like, oh, that's your dad. He's the one who's always like giving us money and like free drinks and stuff. So that made me really happy that my dad is supporting these type of people. Finally, I met the homeless guy, and he taught me some things on the guitar. He taught me like a few scales, and he just started playing, and I was just impressed by this guy's talent because this guy looks like he has nothing, and um, like he literally had nothing. Everything that he possessed was in his pockets. That's it, and he had one guitar. But when this guy started playing, it was just he was a whole different person. He played as if he was like the richest man I've ever seen. He was just playing. So that really made me just kind of speechless for a long time. So when I came back to my house, I just played some instrumental music, and then I started just humming. And then while I was just cleaning my room, and then these words started to formulate, and then I created the first song of Cold Summer Nights, which was called Highways, which was kind of dedicated to that experience and that person, which I never saw again. And I don't know where he is, but it was just a one time. So it's like, it's kind of crazy. But yeah, so that was Highways. And then after
I have to
that, I wrote a
mention, by the
song.
way, that that's probably one of my favorite songs that you've come up
I
with. I've
appreciate
I've put
that.
that on several times. And like, this is good stuff.
I really appreciate that because sometimes I'm a little self-conscious about the music that I make or release. Music has always been a very personal thing for me, a personal way of just like processing things that I see and things that I feel. And whenever I decided to share Highways, it was because I thought that it was such a profound experience that I didn't want to
Yeah.
just keep it to myself. I wanted to share it.
The lyrics
Um,
are so deep. Yeah. It's beautiful stuff, honestly. Yeah.
Thank you, man. And from that experience, I created a fictional story. So that's how the storytelling kind of works with me. Is from a real experience. I wrote a song, and then I started creating a fictional story. And so when I came back, I wrote Corner Store, which is kind of like Highways is in the perspective of the homeless man, and Corner Store is in the perspective of another person viewing the homeless man. So it's someone else who's viewing the homeless man. And so the first song is in that perspective, and the second song is like you're someone who's viewing the homeless man, and then Golden Sunset is the finale. And then Golden Sunset, at the time it was summer, so it just made sense. I was like having a good time in the summertime, so I have like that fun aspect of it. But Golden Sunset is kind of where the two stories come together, and it's like it gets very intense because you look at a homeless person and you look at like the mental illness is so apparent, and it's like right in front of you, like the struggle, the mental strain, the difficulties, the hardships that they're going through. It's just right in front of you. You can see it physically. But for someone else like you, me, and every other human being, we're all going through something, but we just can't see it because it's kind of invisible or it's hidden.
That's very profound.
Yeah. And so what I was trying to create with the story is that, you know, we're all going through something. And, you know, basically the storyline is kind of like, oh, at the end of this, it's called Golden Sunset because I had in my mind, I pictured myself standing at the Golden Gate Bridge in California. And at this time, I had never been to California. So I don't even know how I saw this, but it just came to me in a vision when I was writing this down, and I could just see myself standing there and I could feel the breeze. It was a very intense feeling. It was really nice. And in the storyline that I'm writing, it was kind of, I was trying to portray that the man was about to commit suicide because of everything that he's going through. And so the viewer or the listener is going to think that it's the homeless person, but really it was the other person, the regular person who's going through his own trials and tribulations. And he's about to commit suicide. He's pushed to the edge at that far, but no one is going to look at him, the average person, to think that they are going through something.
Yeah.
So it's just like this crazy story I wrote. Yeah.
Wow. That is honestly so epic. Like, I'm very glad that you explained all this because I wouldn't have seen that at first, and it's really beautiful that you shared that. It's like, wow, that's deep.
Yeah.
That's real art right there, very impressive. Yeah.
Thank you.
Another question that this has inspired within me is when you release a song, do you feel like that song will save you, or what purpose does it serve?
So I think, go ahead.
Before you share your question, I just
question.
wanted to preface something. Like for myself, right? One of the ways that I view art is like it's like a sickness that I have to get it out of my system because there's so many ideas that are boiling up. It's like I have to like vomit it out, let it out.
Right.
So I'm wondering like what it might be like for you.
So I think that's a really good way to put it as well. I have moments where I'm in this creative mindset and I'm writing a song, and I've had many times where I'm writing a song with a friend or with a band or with a producer or many different people, and I'll be writing and I'm going through these things because creating music is a very like trial and error kind of process, or you're like, oh, does this sound good? Oh, let's try this way, and you're just working and working. I've noticed that many people get tired during this process. They're just like, okay, that's enough. I need to take a break. But for me, it's just like, no, I need to see what it is that I am doing. So basically for me, it's always been like, okay, this idea is in my head, but I want to be able to physically see it or hear it. And I'm going to keep working towards it until I can listen to the song that's stuck in my head. So
you have to create it. Wow.
I have to create it. So that's why it's been a personal thing for me, because the personal pleasure that I get from it really makes me happy. It's really satisfying whenever you have these different ideas going in your mind. And after this whole songwriting process, taking it to the studio, recording it, playing it, editing, then finally you're in your car, you play the song and you're just like, finally, I can hear what was stuck in my mind or in my heart. And you can finally hear it. And you turn your idea into reality. It's one of the best feelings an artist can experience. Yeah. It really is. Yeah.
The projects that you've created, have they received? Well, there's a statement about I'm just curious, like whenever you create something, do you feel like it's received the attention it deserves, or it's interpreted the way it should be interpreted? I'm thinking about like the way you explain your song right now.
Okay. I try not to explain. I explain the song when I'm talking to people, or if people ask me, I will explain to them what I was going through to write it. But usually the lyrics are not all the time, they're not very like straightforward. Sometimes they're
Yeah.
very just like they're kind of vague. And what it is like this song has a story in my mind, but this song could have a completely different story in your mind or in anyone
Yeah.
else's mind. And so um I think for me, it has never been about like becoming very famous or like getting all the attention. It's more just like I want to create something that has an impact even to one person, and that would mean a lot to me. And so I've had people who have heard my music, and much later they were just like, I think this was amazing, and they'll tell me something one on one, because a lot of people don't want to open up or like say what they truly feel about the song. But I've had those moments where someone reached out and like literally told me exactly what each song made them feel, each part of the song. And that means a lot to me, that this is having an effect. This is kind of changing. Oh, this is kind of like having an emotional impact on people. So when you hear this song, from the beginning of the song, when you hear it to the end of the song, you will feel a different way. And if I can change the way that you feel, then I think I've done my job as an artist. So
Wow.
that's kind of like the impact I want to have with it.
That's well put.
Yeah.
Does it ever confuse you when people like don't publicly support you, like you said? They don't want to open up all the time.
Um, it hasn't bothered me much because I don't think that I have put myself out there as much. I'm just the songwriter. So I create the song and I release it. But I think I need to work more on the marketing aspect of it. And if I want to take it more seriously, because music is something that I do for myself as a passion. And it
Mm.
hasn't ever been like someone's giving me deadlines or anything. It's always been me like, okay, I want to get this done by this time, or I want to release this in this year, or whatever it is. So it's been a very personal experience for me. So whenever people do support it, I like extremely appreciate it. But when they don't, I don't actually mind, because like this music will reach the person that it's meant to reach.
I
So
like that.
it's yeah. So
Wow.
it'll the people will find, or the music will find itself,
Yeah.
But I hope to market more, like look at that aspect, because right now I feel like that aspect is kind of boring to me, the whole marketing and like that. I'm not good at it, to be honest, because I just focus on the songwriting part. But that's something that I should work on and hopefully can reach more people through it.
Yeah. No, that's fascinating. You mentioned that I'm a vessel just playing it. And I thought that was so interesting because it reminded me of something that Jordan Peterson was talking about, how
Mm-hmm.
everybody is drawn to different things.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of like Pinocchio, like the marionette strings, the puppet strings. But we don't really know where those strings are coming from.
Right.
And he got this idea from like Carl Jung. So I'm curious, where do you think that these marionette strings come from for you?
Well, that's a great question, man. Uh, everyone has their own belief systems and their own faiths, so it could be different for everyone. For me personally, I believe in a higher power. I believe there's something greater out there. It's kind of like we're here, but there's something happening above us, and it's kind of like the secrets of the universe are already here, but they're unseen, like going back to the unknown. So it's like I'm reaching into the unknown and taking these gems and then bringing them to the people. That's kind of what I'm doing
Mm,
with music and art. But sometimes it's like the song will write itself and I'm the vessel. So like I said, like it's the same story being told in different manners. Like I think since the beginning of humanity till the end of humanity, the core like principles of life will be the same. No human being will truly know everything of the unknown. And that's why life is so beautiful, because it's a mystery. But as far as the puppet strings go, I don't know who it is or what it is, but it is something greater. It is something maybe even spiritual, like above us, beyond us. And not necessarily controlling, but it is like the words will just come to me and I don't know
yeah,
where they come from sometime. Or like
yeah,
the
no,
melody will come to me and I don't know where it comes from. So there is something greater out there. And then it's us as the people to like put it together and like work on and structure it, and then like because you'll have an idea and then you'll have to like work very hard to make that idea into shape it into something.
Yeah,
So I there's a balance between both sides of it.
yeah. It was either Percy Shelley or Oscar Wilde, and they said that um, time and time again, you'll find great artists who keep saying the same thing. It comes from beyond. I don't
Yeah,
know what it is, but it comes from beyond. So the way you
yeah.
say the words just manifest. And I relate to that as
Cool.
well. Yeah, that's very fascinating. You're also you sing in Urdu too, and you do a pretty damn good
Yeah,
job.
thank you.
Tell us more about your interest in that.
So yeah, originally my parents are from like Karachi, Pakistan. I didn't spend much time there. I came to the US when I was 3, so I've been here since I was 3. I haven't actually gone back to Pakistan, but I've always been in touch with the Urdu language. Um, I think the way that my music, this is kind of, now that I'm looking at it, it's kind of interesting because I actually don't know how to read music. I have never learned music theory, so I don't know any music notes. I just know guitar chords, and I've just had it put together. I never had a music teacher. And speaking on that, on the music aspect, is I've never had a music teacher. And I think that helped me create my own individual sound because many times when you have a teacher, you just kind of take what they know and then you just repeat it. But I think not having a teacher forced me to find my own sound. And without reading or writing music, I was able to create many songs. And then bringing that to the Urdu language, I actually don't know how to read or write Urdu, but I speak it fluently with my family since I was a child, and slowly over time I fell in love with Urdu music, like Pakistani music and like even Indian music, and I found that things that you can express in Urdu are a lot more like precise, and the way that you can express something in Urdu sometimes is greater than you can express it in English, and
Yeah,
and
yeah,
vice versa in different situations. But Urdu is a very beautiful poetic language, and that's
yeah.
something that I want to work more on. I've written about almost more than 10 songs in Urdu, but I've never
Wow.
released them. But they're just kind
You
of hidden.
should.
They're like demos. Yeah, I need to. I think I'll like work on them within like a year. But
Wow.
it's just I need to do more. Like I just need to like search a little bit more into the Urdu language, make sure I'm following the like the proper grammar and whatnot. But I think the songs that I've written in Urdu have also been very deep and spiritual so far. The most recent song that I've actually written was in Urdu as well, and it's the first full song I've written on a ukulele. So
Wow.
that's a new kind of thing that I'm working on right now.
An Urdu song on a ukulele. I've never heard of that. That sounds very
Yeah,
impressive.
yeah. No, I think it'll be. I'll try to release that one within a year, probably.
That's really cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
You've performed in shows. When you're in front of an audience, how do you preserve your sincerity or kind of like that spirit of just I'm conveying the music?
Um, I it's always been natural. It's not something I have to think of. Maybe the first time, if I'm very nervous, like sometimes the mic will be shaky, or you'll feel like your voice is shaky. But then you just like take a deep breath, and then you realize what it is that you're doing, and you will literally feel connected to the music and everyone else who has ever been connected to music. You feel like you're in this kind of like this wavelength, this frequency where you're in a performance state where you're like doing something that is greater than yourself. So when in a moment like this is sometimes you push your own boundaries and your own limits, and you sometimes I will even like impress myself that I could even do that. But I think I think sincerity is a big thing. You have to be sincere about what
Why?
it is that you're speaking. Um, because being sincere about the music not only makes the experience good for you as a singer or like a performer, but that sincerity, people can see it and they can feel it. And there's no doubt about that. Because if you're truly being sincere to your art and your passion and what it is that you're doing, people will see that and they will appreciate it. And that will make
Yeah.
them feel a certain way. So
No, I
just be
totally agree.
sincere
Yeah.
about that. Yeah.
Wow. That's a beautiful thing you mentioned. Yeah, that's something that I've really been infatuated with for the past like 3 months or so. That sincerity, because sincerity it brings a sweetness to life that I don't think very many other things can. Yeah,
It's true. And another thing that comes with it is when as an artist, you have to be a little bit vulnerable because you're putting your ideas onto the surface and you're putting yourself out there into the world in a very way, but that takes a lot of sincerity and it takes a lot of courage as well. So I think it's a beautiful place to be when you're creating this art and you whatever it is that you're creating, even you creating this podcast, this is your form of expression and dialogue and the way that you like to, process things. But even how the feeling is when you're releasing something, what it feels like, oh, what will people think? But when you do it for the sake of doing it, it's that personal experience that you have felt that is beyond anything else first.
100%,
That is beyond
100%.
everything because that experience that, oh, I did this, I created this, and now I've released it, that already is enough. And then someone else will see that that was enough for you, and that will be like, damn, that was amazing to them as well.
Yeah, reminds me
So
of La La Land, what you just said. It's
I
beautiful.
haven't
I
seen
love
it.
what you
I
said.
haven't seen the
Great
movie.
movie. You should check it out,
Okay, I'll
100%.
check it out. Okay.
I spoke to an artist in Turkey one time, and I asked him like, how do you feel with all these eyes on you? Does it ever make you like, um, does it ever intimidate you? And not like in a way of like I'm embarrassed, but just like that honesty that you need to have as an artist. And he
Mm-hmm.
said to me something interesting. He said, fame isn't selective, neither is art. And I
Mm-hmm.
thought that was very profound. So when you have so many eyes on you, say, through social media or in your audiences or whatnot, does it ever make you nervous? Like, man, like, what if those people see me, but like with ill intentions, like
Mm-hmm.
envious or just jealous or hateful? Does that ever bother you?
Um, I don't think I've worried about it much, too much to bother myself because I don't I think I don't take it so seriously where it affects me, like music and stuff like that, because I realize that music is a form of love. And so I treat it as that. And then that's where the sincerity comes from because I'm doing this out of my love. And
I like that.
yeah, so I've never put in a burden on it that I have to create this or I have to impress someone or I have to live up to this expectation because I'm doing this for myself first. So that's always been the biggest thing for me. And I think as people get more out there and more eyes start coming on them, then they get more nervous. And I've experienced this because after releasing Golden Sunset, that was a really big song for me. That song from coming from Highways, which is just an acoustic song, and then going into Golden Sunset, which has all these new elements and like all these, it was a very big song. And I'm like, okay, the next project has to be better than this project. So that was one thing. It's kind of like it's not other people, but sometimes it's within myself that I want to challenge myself, or sometimes I'm afraid if I can live up to it sometimes. But I've worked on that. And after Cold Summer Nights, I released Dawn, which was like my first full album with like I think 9 songs.
Wow.
Um, and I think I don't think I think when you're being sincere, people appreciate that. Like going back into sincerity, and if anyone does have ill intentions, I think you have to be strong enough to face them or like be strong enough to not let them affect you because you're
Yeah.
doing this out of love. And when people really see that you're doing it out of love, they appreciate it and they will love it as well.
No, that's
Um,
yeah, beautiful.
yeah,
When you create like a single song, like do you ever look at it as like this is like the greatest thing I've created? And then you jump
all
to
the
the
time.
next one and
Yeah.
then you're like this is way better and the previous one is just kind of like yeah, it's good.
For me, it's like when I'm creating a song and the song is finally like I'm writing it down and then I finally see like okay, intro, verse, chorus, like the structure of the song. I'm like, this is the best song I've ever written. I say this all the time, every very often, and that's a good thing because that means that you're creating something really good and it's impressing yourself. So I and then I show it to like friends and they're just like, man, this might be it'll be really interesting. They're like, oh, this is the best song I've ever created because it's in that moment, it's new and so it's just like, oh my God, this has never been seen before. And so I'm like, oh yeah, this is the best song I've ever written. And then a month later, I'll write another one. And I'm like, this is the best song I've ever written. But it doesn't like decrease the value of the last one. They're equally like amazing to me, you know. That's how it's always been,
Wow.
because each song is different. It's not like, I think one thing that I like to do is like my, if you've heard like a lot of my songs, they sound very different. They follow a core theme. They have like a very similar theme, but the actual musical influences sound a little bit different if you've heard like the
I
different
have.
songs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I agree to that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's why I think this is the best song I've written for this message. And then for another one will be like, okay, this is the best song I've written for this moment. So it's always changing.
I believe it was a screenwriter that I heard who said this. I don't remember his name, but he said like don't get precious with your writing, like just or your art or whatever. Just keep releasing it, keep releasing it. It gets better and better. Do you feel like that's how it might have been for you in the beginning, where you started
Yes.
releasing and it became like a domino effect?
Yes, I think so, because a lot of people that I grew up with, they would buy this equipment, very expensive equipment, buy these expensive instruments and whatnot, and invest in these, like, recording stuff. And then they wouldn't do anything with it. They would be intimidated by the things that they've bought, and then they wouldn't go anywhere. So my goal was that I'm not going to spend a dollar on anything until I feel that I have become something, or I look at myself as a musician. I think I'm always hard on myself sometimes about this, because because I don't know how to read music, or I can't really explain music theory as well as other people can. But I use that to my advantage to create something unique. And whenever I create that, it's more magical to me then, because I'm like, how did I create this? Because I don't know the language of music. I'm just like, it's just happening by itself sometimes. But going back into this is like, I had waited. So I released Highways, just an acoustic version of Highways. And then I just released it, and then I just saw what it did. And I said, okay, I feel like, okay, that felt pretty good. Let me release the next three songs together as an EP. So I released that in
Wow.
2020. And then I said, okay, let's see how this goes. So I made Highways, I made Corner Store. I'm like, okay, the finale has to be like insane. Like, it has to be the best song that's ever came to this world. So I was like, okay, I had that
Wow.
intention. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, and at the time, like, the very low budget, like, I recorded at a friend's house, like in a closet, like, like, but like it meant a lot to me, because it, and going back into just a real quick into Cold Summer Nights, a year later after the release, I went to Golden Gate Bridge and I played the song there on my guitar.
Wow. No
And so it
way.
finally came into like this full circle, and I felt like Cold Summer Nights had completed at that
Oh
moment, not
my
when I
God.
released it, but when I got there. But
Wow.
yeah,
That's a
and
gem right there.
yeah, it was a beautiful moment. I'll try to release like some type of video about it soon. And then so up until this point, my first guitar was my brother's guitar that was in the garage just lying around broken. That's my first guitar that I learned. After that, my cousin had gifted me a guitar, and I used that to write majority of the songs. And even after Golden Sunset, I still didn't think that I was worthy enough to like spend money on this, because I feel like I wanted to make sure that I am really ready and equipped. And then I was like, okay. Then I started growing my hair very long after this
Ah,
time period.
remember.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah, so my hair got really long, and I was like, I'm not gonna cut my hair until I released a full album, or until I release something that is satisfying to me. And that's when I released Dawn. And I
Mm.
think, I don't know why I had put so much pressure on myself, because I was working like two jobs, full-time student, and I said, "No, I want to finish this album in 2 months."
Oh
And
my
it was
God.
9 songs, and I just was
Wow.
going crazy. And I majority of the album was recorded within a month, like
Wow.
back to back after work. I would work like 10-hour shifts and then go to the studio at night, and then just 2 hours in the studio, like
That
almost.
that is so impressive. Wow. Were you like a vampire? Were you up at night, writing your songs, doing
I'm a
demos?
I'm a night owl, so yeah, I was up all
Wow.
night. Yeah, and in fact, Emotions and Explosions. I had booked a studio session at my friend's house. And then the night before, I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to sing this. I don't know what I'm going to sing. And so the night before, I stayed up probably like 3 hours at night, and I just like looked at. I literally have a bunch of journals, and there's like sometimes when I have a thought, or like a lyric idea, I'll write down like a line on a journal, and I just put it to the side. And then I had another one in another journal, and then I just took all these journals together, and I'm like, okay, okay, and I started matching them and creating a song. And then we had created the instrumental, and so I kept playing the instrumental that was probably the hardest song lyrically, because every song is usually like I play guitar and it just naturally comes to me. But this is the first time I was like, okay, I need to figure out what's the flow gonna be like, what's the melody gonna be like, how am I gonna tie in, how am I gonna make these different verses connect? And so when that all came together, I went to the studio, I sang it, and I think Emotion and Explosion is definitely one of my favorite songs as well.
Wow,
Yeah,
beautiful stuff.
yeah.
There's this Slovenian philosopher, Slavoj Žižek, and I heard him say something the other day that a writer, when they're writing, they've already accepted their death. That's their writing. They've accepted their death because that is their testament to the life they've lived. Do you feel like with your music it's like that? Like I'm composing this because I understand I won't be here forever. This is a part of
100%.
me. Wow.
100%. It's because one of the reasons that I do music is because I think a lot of people, if not almost everyone, wants to leave some sort of legacy. And I think music is that for me. There's also like different aspects of my life that I want to do, like in business and career and whatnot. But I think one of the first things that I ever thought about, that after I pass away, someone is going to listen to this song and it's still going to change them. It's still going to make them feel. And I grew up listening to a lot of music, and I always was just like, man, has such a this song has affected an experience in my life. So when I listen to a song, like let's say I'm on a road trip or I'm experiencing something new and there's a song playing. So that song is now attached to that moment. And every time I'll listen to that song, it will remind me of those different moments. And so I wanted to create something that can have this impact or this effect on other people. And so that's kind of like my legacy with music, is that there's going to be some sort of positive message within it. Even if it's a sad song, even if it's anything like that, I still think people can feel a certain way and that can change their mindset. Like I said before, whenever you hear a song of mine, from the beginning till the end of the song, I want you to feel a different way. I want to change your emotional state. And that is something that that should have an impact on people even after I pass away. So that's
Very
something
cool. Yeah.
that's
I
definitely,
think
definitely something. Yeah.
yeah. I believe it's been almost 50 years, I think, since Jim Morrison passed away. And
Hmm.
Kurt Cobain, he was 27 when he passed away. And it's
Yeah.
been 27 years since his death. So
Wow.
it's like, but people still listen to that music, you know?
Exactly.
It's interesting.
Yeah, because and another thing that I want to do with music, one of my goals with music is that I want to change, like I want to have an impact on the music industry, or like the musical the art of music, because
Mhm.
you'll like I think the greatest were the Beatles. They created the blueprints of music, and because of them, we have like the structure of music. But then other people came, like Michael Jackson created a whole new sound. Even Nirvana came, they created a new sound. And there's been these different artists that have been around that have created a new sound that has, because of them, has branched out new genres. And I
Yeah.
think I want to do something like that where I'm like, oh, this guy changed music. So that's something that I would like to do
Very
with my
admirable.
art. Yeah.
Yeah. Abdul, do you have any closing thoughts, my man?
Um, I think we should go back to say, like, whatever it is that you do, whether it's art or work or whatever it is that you do in your life, do it with sincerity, because that will make the experience better for you and for everyone else who is with you. Um, and there's a lot of unreleased music that I have that I need to like set out to the world. And I hope to keep writing more songs and like gaining this. And if anyone like enjoys my music, they should reach out to me. And if they have any thoughts about it, like honest opinions, I would love to hear what people have to think about it as well. Yeah.
Beautiful. Beautiful. All right. That was the episode with Abdul Rahman Ghani, an amazing legend. Feel free to reach out to him. I'll have your links in the description.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank
Beautiful
you, man.
conversation, man. A real delight to
Definitely.
have you.
Boy. Thank you for having me, man. And I would love to hear more about like what it is that you're doing with the podcast, and what's your intentions, and what are you trying to like, what kind of got you into this?
Um, in one word, sincerity.
Perfect. Perfect. I like
Yeah,
that.
yeah. All right. Well, good talking to you, man. Yeah.
All right, man.
You
Take care.
take care, my friend.
All right, man.